After reading the title for this video, you might have a couple questions. Like for example, what the heck is a GLOOP Gun? Or who the heck makes Outer World videos in the year 2025? The answer are, respectfully, the GLOOP Gun is a gun in Outer Worlds that shoots gloop and me. Functionally, it is a plasma grenade launcher, except instead of plasma damage, it mostly deals electrical and corrosive. Oh, and it makes everyone it hits levitate helplessly through the air, which looks absolutely hilarious, and also they are screaming the entire time. So given these properties of the gun, can you really blame me for deciding to try and beat the game using this weapon exclusively? Today, we're going to see, can you beat the Outer Worlds using only my gloop? And no, I refuse to phrase that differently. Like and subscribe, etc. And let's take off. In a distant future of I forgot when, a ship full of cryogenically frozen colonists floats at the edge of a solar system. Tyrannical corporations run the habitable planets, but a mad scientist named Phineas Wells is about to turn this all around. After breaking into the forgotten spaceship, Phineas picks out one colonist to unfreeze, and by sheer accident chooses the one guy with some sorta electrochemistry fetish. That colonist is us, and I really like how the character creation screen is technically not you setting your stats, but actually Phineas deciding which of the frozen TV dinners to rejuvenate.
I hope you won't yell at me the moment I wake you up.
And speaking of soulless corpus shilling, I am now forced to inform you that this channel, by the time this video goes up, should have memberships enabled on it. Meaning you can support the channel by clicking the join button and becoming one of the unfortunately named members. Now, I do want to start doing member-exclusive bonus videos sometime in the future, but what I can guarantee you right now is that the next video, Stalker with only grenades, will come out for the supporters before it will come out for everyone else. Also, begging for money like this makes my skin crawl, so please at least subscribe to this channel so that I can eventually escape the wage slavery. As the GLOOP Gun is a science weapon and a heavy weapon, I preemptively drain everything I can and rearrange all my skill points into a gloop-optimized being. Sure, the creature comes out uncharismatic and undexterous, but at least the points in strength and perception let me start out with 40 in heavy weapons and 29 in science. I can't promise that this is the maximum of it, but that's plenty to start with. I also make my glooping lady as ghoulish looking as the character creator lets me, then name it a mistake, for good measure. This should make the introductions way funnier in the future. I'm a mistake, pleasure to meet you.
Ooh, charmer. Don't get a lot of that around here.
Because me finagling with the character creator takes me like 30 minutes, Phineas is then discovered by the corporate polices and has to hightail it to his laboratory, where our character is promptly unfrozen and set loose onto the nearby planet. And technically, we then immediately fail the challenge, because our landing pod crashes onto the captain Phineas hired to escort us.
Oh well, no sense in letting his ship go to waste.
Not that the cutscenes really count here, but Outer Worlds can be frustrating like that. There's an issue here that I need to address. This game can at the same time be beaten with any weapon or no weapon at all. But also, any challenge run of it will fail immediately, and not even because of the splattering of Captain Hawthorne here. See, in this cave that you can't avoid, there's a wounded corporate trooper who will give you his weapons as a way to make sure that the skill checks work. So a no skill check run is already impossible. But then, as part of the tutorial, you're also forced to use his weapons on these explosive barrels blocking the exit. I'm pretty sure you can't glitch through them despite what Obsidian's reputation might tell you. So I have to at least take a swing at them to leave the tutorial. For the sake of clarity, let's say the rules will be that I cannot harm any living creature unless I'm using the GLOOP Gun. Of course, this means I will have to just go pacifist until I get to the stupid thing, but trust me, once I do, there will be plenty of combat. In fact, why not? Here's some clips of combat, I'm feeling generous. The thing makes people fly while screaming, you won't have to tell me twice to use it. That being said, once I'm out of the tutorial run, I try and scare the corporate troopers into clearing out marauders from where my new ship is. Not very pacifist of me, but technically I'm not the one hurting people without the GLOOP Gun, so it doesn't count. While the girls are fighting, I waltz into the ship of the recently deceased captain to meet Ada, his automated co-pilot, who is also an artificial intelligence running the spaceship.
You are still here. My deception protocols have failed. I have been programmed to express disappointment.
For all intents and purposes, she is the spaceship, so she is now very aware that the power supply of the rust bucket is on the fritz, and I will have to go scout out a new one. There should be a power regulator we need in the nearby town of Edgewater, and lucky for me, they actually have two. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First I need to level up and redistribute some skill points, which is also a whole thing because the Outer Worlds leveling system is, shall we say, innovative. What I mean to say is kinda stupid. Until a certain level, all of your skills are packed into convenient bags of 3 or 2. So in the beginning of the game, you can't just level up long guns. You level up ranged weapons, which is guns, long guns and heavy. Upon hitting level 50, your one sub-skill will actually exit this little bag. This means that min-maxing your character the way I do is not actually that smart. Being well-rounded simply pays more, especially because each little subset of skill actually has its own perks that unlock as you level them. For example, at level 60 heavy weapons, your reload speed for heavy weapons will be 30% faster. Which, please, oh my god, please, this gun takes forever! Sure, I could get some exciting perks out of speech or dexterity, because really nothing is as banging as a speech skill in an Obsidian game. But I have a thing going right now, so I'll take the longer side quests for the time being, if that means I can gloop harder later on in the game. In the meantime, I exit the ship and convince the lieutenant to waive my parking fee because I done such a great job helping them fight off the marauders, which is hilarious because I haven't actually helped at all. Life is tough in the town of Edgewater. The cannery factory that keeps everybody employed is always breaking down, the planet is mostly hostile and uninhabitable, and also some lunatic came to the mayor mumbling something about gloop time, whatever it is. The mayor instead tells that lunatic, so me, that they have 2 power regulators, and I sure can grab one of them if I'm willing to cut off the power supply to the greenhouse that some deserting members of the city live in. He actually asks me to talk to them first too, because this far from Earth, turns out, fellas and guys are also in short supply. Maybe once I shut off their Wi-Fi, the gardeners will be more willing to come back into the company's shackles. Long story short, the deserters are actually living no worse than the town people. And their little community is actually free of the plague that's been tormenting the town. Because the leader of the greenhouse has been grinding up corpses into fertilizer, then feeding her friends with the more nutritious plants not grown on sour soil. And everyone seems to be okay with it. Which, so am I.
When I'm dead, just throw me in the trash.
You can even find some gold teeth from a corpse in the back of her workspace to prove it, and confront the old lady. And since the deserters have it too good to live anyway, I make my way to the power plant and find out it's filled with murderous robots. The automechanicals protecting the plant have at some point gone haywire and murdered everyone working there. Well, everyone but one guy who was on a lunch break. The culling was actually orchestrated by the company running the plant, to keep the costs down, because, of course it was, my Roomba has been planning something like this for weeks. For me, this now means I will have to navigate the plant full of hostile robots with literally 0 points in stealth, or without any weapons. Which would not be a problem at all if the plant also didn't need fixing. You can actually pull the levers you have to pull while being shot at, but after that, you still have to access a terminal, which you can't do if you are in combat. Luckily, just going outside of the building actually resets the aggro, so by the end of it, I only need to stealth from the entrance and to the one room where the regulator controls are. Despite what my conscience tells me, I cut the Wi-Fi at the greenhouse and leave to convince Adelaide the tree woman to go back to the town. She's not a fan, but it does seem like the route where the least amount of people die. I do, however, also explain to the town mayor Reed Thompson that he should resign and let the lady who knows how to make people not die of scurvy become the new town supervisor. He actually agrees, so the day is saved, and only most of the hopes and dreams within the city have been crushed. This is kind of a thing with the Outer Worlds as a game. A lot of the times in the story, as a player, you will be drawn towards more neutral solutions instinctively, which apparently RPG players tend to do. Turns out they're ultimately a bunch of centrists who tend to see the middle of the road ending as the best one. What we did here might seem like the center ending. You got both sides to kind of agree with one another. However, in reality, you still get the nice plaque for your ship, that says you taught one lesson to the citizens of the Edgewater: never dream. And Reed Thompson still dies, by the way. Just because you didn't kill him doesn't mean he didn't immediately walk out of the cannery and get eaten by some marauders. Disabling power for the botanical garden and then installing Adelaide as the new leader of Edgewater is actually just a way for you to still be based, even if you messed up originally and devoted power to the totalitarian corporate shill. And there's no way for you to keep the power for both settlements either. The game forces you to make a choice. I talked Reed into leaving, get the hell out.
I never thought I'd see the day that Reed Thompson abandoned his post. Suppose we all have a breaking point.
Speaking of, before I leave, I also bring the local priest a philosophy book he wanted. I really just stumbled into it in a cave and wanted to hear him get pissed that he can't actually read it.
Wait. What the fuck is this? Is this French?
I can't fucking read French.
Don't get me wrong, I can't read French either, despite what my comment section seems to think about my accent. Now for the good part. Once I plug the Chongus fuse into Ada's orifice, we can commandeer the ship properly and leave the planet. Usually that would mean coming to the Groundbreaker ship to trade for the nav key to the landing pad over at another much deadlier planet called Monarch, but the nav key is also really expensive, so you'd usually do a bunch of missions around other locations to get some cash. There's a whole group of side quests featuring the Anti-Clear Corporation, there's legally dubious space pirates, and there's even the fact that Groundbreaker itself has been slowly melting for the past few years. However, you can actually bypass all that and just land on a free-to-access Cascadia landing pad directly on Monarch, skipping around a third of a game. The landing pad is covered in monsters and marauders, so good luck getting through though. And it's one thing to assemble a beefy character and fight your way out, it's another entirely to try and do that without any weapons on a character with literally 0 points in stealth.
You'd have to be a lunatic to land in Cascadia, and I'm reasonably certain I tested your brain for incipient signs of insanity.
Not that crouching is going to help you against this one spot where the only passage is blocked by 2 giant mantiquins. So I just give up on stealthing completely and start running. After all, stamina pretty much just doesn't exist within the game, and the healing supplies can last me a hot minute with my significant medicine skill. Sure, the mantiquins specifically seem to chase me for quite some time, but eventually they give up and return to their other meal. Which is irrelevant, by the way, because by then another species of local fauna is already chasing me anyway. Generally, there's 2 types of monsters on the Monarch Wilderness. The Raptidons, which I guess were meant to be a cross between a raptor and a shark, so they're dinosaur shark puppies essentially, and Mantisaurs, which would be praying mantises who are also dinosaurs who will also eat your face. Mantisaurs specifically have multiple stages of growth and generally hang out in small colonies. The way humanoid enemies like the Marauders usually have multiple different classes within their little squad, with a sniper who tries to stand back and kinda snipe you, and a scout who runs up to you and just tries to stab you to death. Same way, the Mantisaurs will usually have the Mantiquin, who is this massive dragon lizard, couple of Mantisaur drones patrolling the area, and adorable Mantisaur caterpillars, whom I hate. And these units basically function just like a squad of marauders. Each type of the enemy will have their own tactics and strategies which synergize between each other and in theory make these enemies much more unique than your usual beast monster who will just run up to you and eat you. In practice, it does kinda make all the enemy squads blend together, because no matter if you're facing marauders or if you're facing Mantisaurs or if you're dealing with Raptidons who, yes, have spitters that also have ranged attacks, you are basically dealing with snipers just the entire time. And against all of those ranged enemies, there is only one strategy that never actually fails. Running. This is why I invested into the extra run speed perk very early. And luckily the stamina in this game just doesn't ever run out. Unlike me, who runs out of every situation generally. I am very much running as fast as I can, angering everyone and never looking back. Like that one time in college. A lot of the enemies here have ranged attacks too, so an occasional shot of Adreno really helps. But miraculously, I make it to the main city of the planet on my first try. Thankfully, once you first make it to the Monarch Cannery, you just unlock it as a fast travel point, and also the landing pad becomes available proper. Though I have much more travel across the horrible wilderness ahead of me, because the GLOOP Gun is actually hidden on the other side of the chasm down the middle of the area. At least I get to steal a nice hut on the way. No, really, that's what it's called. It's a top hat you can find in a church that gives you a boost to some conversation skills, which is not as good as the dialogue bonus you get from the hat you can steal from Reed Thompson's corpse, but that ship has sailed now. He pretty much disappears out of the game once you convince him to give up the management job. Why is this hat important? It is not. I'm tired of looking at this ugly mug, so... There, that's not better somehow. Finding my GLOOP Gun is a bit cumbersome, unless you remember exactly the way to the laboratory it's kept at. Which I obviously don't, the whole place literally is meant to be secret. It's actually a part of the plot here on Monarch that the corporations other than MSI Canary are not allowed to operate here. Of course, Sublight still does, but their whole thing is about hiding illegal activities with confusing paperwork, so you figure. No, the laboratory we're going for is a secret UDL gun weapon development facility that has recently been overtaken by marauders. How recently? Well, just about... now. Because the workers here wouldn't stop messing around with it, the GLOOP Gun was locked away behind a terminal interaction. Which is a problem to me because that means I can't be in combat when I get to it. Or in my case, I can't be shot at while I get to it. This means sneaking my way through the main building, but it's not like I would do any good in a fight against these heavily armed ringleaders anyway. This takes a few tries because, I can't stress this enough, I have no stealth and I must sneak. But once I actually make it to the computer, it's not any better either because the dumb thing is locked with the supervisor keycard that I don't have. Meaning I now need to sneak back upstairs and find it without being seen. For the record, the card is placed on this desk behind one of the invaders' back. I have to get pretty in there before I can grab it, so it takes a few tries too, because even with the game assist, I am usually horrible at hiding. With that, only one last thing stands between me and the coveted gun. The UDL loyalty test, where the terminal offers you 3 situations in a row with a hypothetical solution to it. Knowing the bot, you wouldn't be surprised to find out that the correct answer is always the morally wrongest one, up to arresting your wife on the spot and giving your children up for corporate. And little Timmy just started to talk. And finally, I can pick up my dear glooping apparatus and begin the run proper. Yes, I've been spending all my quest reward money on energy ammo this entire time, why do you ask? So despite looking like a golden colander on a stick, the gun makes relatively quick work of the marauders occupying the lab. The pure damage output actually leaves a lot to be desired, but you can't really argue that when we've skipped half of the game in quest right now. We are obviously violently under level for the area. That being said, the stun locking capability of the thing is nothing to scoff at. The fact that the gun makes anyone it hits levitate means that for a short amount of time you can simply remove a chosen enemy out of the fight. Plus, once they recover, they will have a weakened debuff applied to them, which makes most anyone way less of a threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
On top of that, the area of effect from the initial splash lasts a while longer than it seems. So by glooping an entrance you expect a few people to run through, you can create a float trap for an advancing force. This unfortunately comes at a significant cost. And I mean that literally, because ammo is money and the gun eats up 10 energy charges with every shot. This means I will need to hoard the stuff like a dragon and also be very vigilant about my cover shooting, since the gun can only fit 3 shots before reloading. This all being said, I am giggling like an idiot the entire time, because glooping, look at it! Whee! Get flying, baby! Can you believe this thing was made by people who had no idea how it works? Yeah, that's official lore for the GLOOP Gun, by the way. Nobody knows how it converts the plasma round into anti-gravity, and also the reason it was under lock in the first place is because one of the scientists who was working on it has filled the supervisor's sock drawer with the anti-gravity gloop. Oh, and one other terminal in the facility has on it a text file with alternative names for the GLOOP Gun, because gloop is the first thing they came up with, and even they thought it was too stupid a name for this thing. And now they're all dead, because when the marauders attacked, the gun was under lock. To truly see the destructive power of the flex gun, I return to the Edgewater and take up the quest to hunt down 3 special marauder leaders across the general location. Logic dictates that I should be just about the level when you leave the cannery, and no, I am actually wildly overpowered for this. The first guy collapses in one shot without even alerting any of his friends, robbing me of a glorious flight that I came here to see. I have a lot more fun with the ringleader hiding in the cave behind the greenhouses. The enemies here are all piled up behind the tunnel, so I bait them towards myself and watch as they float out like a pack of balloons on the weirdest gender reveal party. Fun as that is, this is where the game assigns me permanently concussed at birth. Basically, if you have too much fun with the game, sometimes it will give you an opportunity to make your life much worse by accepting that your character is not immune to the consequences of their actions. Apparently, I have stepped on way too many mines across the planet, so the game offers me a deal: become permanently much dumber in exchange for one extra perk point on top of my usual. This, I have to admit, is not a very tempting offer, given that the perk system in Outer Worlds pretty much sucks on toast. Sure, in Fallout New Vegas, one perk point can overtune the entire run, but here, they're all just boring stuff like extra carry capacity or bonus prices at vendors. Nice things for sure, but not exactly worth crippling oneself over. Unless you're me and really want to make your character not right in the head as much as possible. So I decide to, from now on, accept every flaw the game suggests me. And truth be told, not without a good reason. There are 2 perks in 2 different tiers that would really help this playthrough. The straight up 50% increase to any science weapon damage, and another straight up 50% increase to any science weapon damage. I'll need 10 perks before I can unlock both, so speeding up the process may be helpful. So I agree to removing a few points of mind skill, hoping to eventually make it up by leveling up or dressing right. Also, let's face it, it is very funny to think of your character as canonically stupid. Once I give up the Marauder fingers and earn the Junior Pig badge, it's time to come back to Monarch and push this float forward a little bit. Essentially, we're only on the planet to get some info from an information broker, who lives on the highest cliff in the area. The problem is that Monarch is home to 2 leftist factions, Iconoclasts and MSI, who, as leftist factions do, hate each other's guts. So both just won't stop spamming the radio waves with advertisement and speeches. And the info broker can't send anything through because the Wi-Fi bandwidth is just too overloaded. I need to get both of them to shut up before I start climbing the cliff. The Iconoclasts are quite fascinating as a faction. Pretty much the entire game up until now, you hear rumors of their brutish nature and uncivilized way, and how their reign of terror is a danger to the society of the board. But once you actually make it to the anarchist camp, it's just a bunch of rather friendly people trying desperately to survive in the unforgiving wilderness of the planet.
Trash cube.
Yeah, look at him. He just keeps making them.
I can hear you. He's in the zone.
The trash cube zone.
You gotta admit, they're convenient.
There's even a quest in their camp just about how everything is broken and nothing works. Most of it can actually be fixed by just clicking some buttons in terminals, though I still have to walk out and flip a lever in a Raptidon lair nearby because of my low hacking skill. Oh my god! That just missed entirely. For my trouble, I get off at the drug addiction floor, where all my stats are lowered whenever I haven't taken Adreno in a while. But given how frequently I have to spam medkits in this game, I don't think anything changes at all when I accept it. I already am addicted to health items, this is basically a free perk point. Graham, the spiritual leader of the group, agrees to stop broadcasting if I help the Iconoclasts secure the printing press. Because yes, they're also out of pamphlets. Being a dissident is miserable, you all. A smuggler should have brought them the new rollers for the newspaper machine, but they never arrived, and also the newspaper machine is taken over by dinosaurs, but that's for later. I agree to fetch it, and luckily I already have a fast travel spot nearby. Unfortunately, a sublight squad still made their first, and by that I mean unfortunately for them, because I've been itching to make somebody levitate for a hot minute. This clearly was the right choice, because the guy at the front had on him one of my favorite jackets in the entire game, not only because it looks really stylish and very space piratey, but also because it offers +5 to the dialogue skills. And I'm permanently concussed, so you can see how that is very helpful. As the remaining space pirates floated through the sky, I realized that this might ruin my standing with the faction somewhat, but to my surprise, the delivery company wasn't yet ready to hunt me for sport. The courier gives up the rolling stock, and I ask her to also give the anarchist some darn medicine, because I wouldn't want Graham dying of a cold before I get my hands on him. Now that I bring back the office supplies, Graham sends me to fix up the oversized Xerox, and his right hand Zora sends me to help their elite squad, the Van Noise, who were already supposed to fix up the oversized Xerox. I actually passed the place on a glorious run from Cascadia, so I know for sure the place is swarming with Raptidons and Raptidonts. And given the opportunity, frankly, I also Rapti wouldn't. I promised the Van Noise to clear out the printing press without them, but they won't leave until I help rescue their medic. Luckily, his corpse is just around the corner, at the far end of the dinosaur nest. Again, the float feature of the gun comes in clutch, as I don't actually fight any of the monsters. I just send them flying for a short time, as I run in, grab the supplies and run out. After which the Van Noise easily dispatch all the animals chasing me. Sure, none of them are using a GLOOP Gun, but it's not me dealing damage to the enemy, so I say it doesn't count. This single helmet has more armor protection than both my current hat and my, protective clothing. And it has a bonus point of covering my ugly face. Same trick, however, won't work with any of the monsters inside the printer. Funny enough, if you sneak through the place and install the rollers, all of them will run out anyway, probably scared by the noise of the machinery. But since I literally have 0 in stealth, I'm forced to become something much scarier and begin sending the lizard wolves flying. The fact that the levitation effect still works on even the biggest fuck-off creatures is genuinely amazing. Especially with Raptidons that like to charge you and don't actually lose momentum after the shot. So they pretty much continue floating helplessly in your general direction. This is where I think a normal player would just switch to a better DPS gun and finish them off. But we can't have that, so it's a bit of a song and dance what with the frequent reloads. With the control over the press, Graham now has no need to strangle the Wi-Fi, so I just need to convince his socialist enemies to stop blasting space with their spam bots. Sanjar from MSI does admit that their canned goods haven't really been selling well anyway, but he has now come up with a different way to get into the bot's good graces: blackmail. So he sends me to an abandoned office at the outskirts of the city to bring him the special blackmailing document form. You know, gotta keep it official. It is barely a jog, and I even find the iconoclast scout locked in the wardrobe on the second floor to the place. Well, locked is too big of a word for it. You just need to tell her to pull the handle from the inside, and you too can help a woman come out of a closet. With his pretty little space papers, Sanjar can bureaucratically secure the future of Monarch, and I'm sure the Mantisaurs won't file any complaints either. All he needs to complete it is proof of a different corporation working on the planet in secret. And I just so happen to have that proof right in my hands, because it's the UDL GLOOP Gun, because it's the whole premise of this video. Okay, you do actually need the data from the UDL terminals too, but I do wish showing him the doohickey was enough. And now that both of the politicians have officially shut up, I can climb the Devil's Peak mountain and force the info broker into sending his stupid emails. The path up there is filled with mantiqueens because of course it glooping is. There's even a mega mantiqueen grazing on some corpses somewhere in the way. Which, yes, despite being absolutely enormous, also is not immune to the float effect. Meaning, I can just have some adreno, launch the animal into the air, and peacefully walk under it and avoid an actual fight. Well, okay, walk is not the word actually. I spent pretty much the whole climb up there running for my life, but that's what extra run speed perk is for. Yes! I love this gun so much. Speaking of perks, I get an extra one for accepting their herpetophobia flaw, which should make me lose some of the stats whenever Mantisaurs are involved. The trick being that this is probably the last time I'm actually encountering any Mantisaurs within the main story. So once again, literally no downside is being had. As per tradition, the radio station is filled with marauders. So not only do I have to fight my way through, the broker won't talk to me until I clear out the place entirely. At least I get a confirmation that while being levitated, the enemies can indeed fly over the railings and fall to their doom. Once everyone has gotten a really good look at the ceiling, I meet the internet historian, and for some reason he specifically needed my permission to start sending the data over the perfectly empty radio. I guess going outside and pulling this lever is just too much for the man's feeble bones. But he might have had the right idea, because it apparently was a load-bearing lever, and as soon as I pull it, a gunship vessel enters the atmosphere and plows itself into the ground. Both the MSI and the Iconoclast want it now, so it's up to me to resolve the situation, because let's face it, I'm the only one concussed enough to go trudging through the Mantisaur-infested sulfur swamps to investigate. It's not part of the main quest at all, by the way. We can continue the main plot and leave these people to their peril. It's just that outside of making anyone into a balloon animal, my damage output, how do I say it, gloops ass. So any extra experience I can get would help immensely. So, much like with the Edgewater Cannery, we're going to try and force everyone to kiss and make up. Graham the Anarchist lacks the know-how to really fight the bot in the economic warfare, while Sanjar the Socialist is money smart but lacks the big picture vision. But really, Graham will lack much more than just his vision after I'm done with him.
The words in those reviews were very hurtful, but they do not define me. I am a mantipillar, and my will is my cocoon. I can emerge and become whatever I wish.
So you decided to become a salty bitch. Okay. Before the Iconoclasts can jump me and yoink the weapon system from my inventory, I converse with Zora, who has suspicions about that time everyone even remotely related to Monarch's ruling class conveniently got killed by space pirates. She has a code that may lead to some old archives, so I have to once again brave the Mantisaurs and figure out if Graham had anything to do with that time everyone died forever. The truth is, he did. So Zora tries to depose him, which only starts a fight, and you know how that goes.
But as long as I draw breath, I will not abandon them.
Zora! Come on! I was having fun. She just shot him out of the air like this was Duck Hunt. There's a lot of political theory going on here, but please forgive me that I struggle to take it seriously right now, because I'm too busy imagining myself as Pennywise from It. They all float here. You'll float too! Sanjar is not up to joining forces with Graham, but does feel like him and Zora could actually hit it off. I, of course, conveniently leave out that it's her and I that tag team perforated his former anarchist friend. But being a bureaucrat first and foremost, Sanjar wants me to bring him Zora's performance review from her last place of employment, which would be the Cascadia Riza plant. The same place you park your ship illegally at. You just gotta get there from the other end of the ravine, and guess what, that side is just as dangerous. Thankfully this time it's only the raiders that are stopping me. And though their squads are supposed to be rather beefy by this point, I do get a giggle out of their strongest unit being a hijacked automechanical robot. You know, that thing that's highly vulnerable to electric type attacks, and also to being dropped from a great height. Actually grabbing the review for Sanjar gives me another level up, and I get to bump my science skill all the way to 100. Which is pretty great on its own, since that makes the weekend effect last longer on the victims. But there's also the extra effect the leveling system has on whatever it's for. So here's the thing, there's an equipment upgrade system in the game called Tinkering, where you can increase the level of your weapon by spending some money at a workstation. The upgrades can go up to 5 levels higher than your character, and become increasingly expensive as you go. However, getting 100 points in science caps the Tinkering price for all science weapons, and also gives you a 90% discount, so I can easily up my GLOOP Gun from 62 to 71 DPS, which may not sound like much, but sure feels much better to swing around. All that's left to do here is negotiate the peace treaty between the anarchists and the socialists, which I very characteristically bumble about, because not only am I still permanently concussed, I also am struggling from adrenal withdrawal. So it's surprising that my hangover and stupid butt didn't just floatify everyone present and call it a day.
Rude would be slaughtering you while you're asleep in your home. Isn't that what we do to executive types?
You did a strange thing with your eyes just now. Is this all supposed to mean something to me?
But now I can finally come back to the main plot, because those frozen colonists aren't getting any fresher. Long story short, the bot has received a large shipment of the colonist unfreezing chemicals. So we gotta go to the Byzantium, the capital, and grab it. But since we're going anyway, I want to grab Ellie, one of the companions, because her quest is basically just about talking to some people, and it pays pretty nicely. To pick up this companion, you just need to travel to Groundbreaker's ship and walk into the med bay. She will be asking for her friend, and rescuing said friend just means picking up the disguise ID off of a nearby table and jogging lightly into the patient wing. Turns out Ellie's friend owes a lot of money to the board, and you can pay off the debt or you can force her into obligatory labor. Either way, she is actually just happy to be alive. This makes Ellie offer to join your crew, and after that she will want to talk to you before you exit your ship on Byzantium. What I have completely forgotten is that by doing this way, I have successfully gotten my ship impounded. Well, it's more like suspended. The board representative here on the Groundbreaker actually had a deal with, you know, the previous Captain Hawthorne, because the guy did actually want to sell out Phineas Wells to the board. Later down the line, this board representative actually gets killed by the board for being wildly incompetent. But what I have forgotten is that that only happens after you set foot to Byzantium for the first time. So I have to go all the way to Udon Noodles or whatever his name is and try to sell Phineas out to him myself, which doesn't work either because the guy has lost his stamp or whatever and now needs 8,000 space bucks to buy it back out. I don't think he understands how the whole selling out thing works in general. So I get my ship unimpounded and just leave him to his old devices. As for Ellie, turns out she's actually old money, and her estranged parents are super rich, living it up in the capital. She really wants to barge in and ruin their life for a bit, so to help with that, I buy her a giant moonhead helmet and force her to wear it to the reunion. This guy here selling them, by the way, is quite fascinating as well. He's a Spacer Choice Corporation employee, contracted more or less to forever wear that stupid moon helmet without being able to take it off even to sleep. You can chat to him and he's miserable, but on a terminal nearby, turns out he has a little personal diary that he written out and mailed to his mom. And if you read that, you find out that he's even more miserable than you actually thought. It is actually genuinely very sad that there isn't a quest for you to help him in any way. Anyway, there's one thing he has in common with my companion here, because you see, I shouldn't. Okay, here's a problem. If you put something, if you put some sort of a helmet onto your companions, they will be unable to take off a helmet ever. So if I put this, then I can't take it off. I don't know if it's gonna render during the cutscene. I don't think it will.
Marilyn, is that you?
Lars, we certainly didn't expect to see you like this.
Boo! Ellie, put on your hat! Put your hat back on! It's such a disappointment! As it turns out, Ellie's parents have been doing pretty well for themselves, in no small part thanks to collecting a large sum from their life insurance. Yes, they told everyone that she slipped on some shoes and died. So we have to track down the insurer and convince them otherwise, out of sheer spite. And also because money. The Byzantium insurance office is basically only a sign saying we actually work on Monarch, which, true enough, their actual office is in Fallbrook, because they are Sublight, because they are scammers. Sublight is a faction I really like that I don't really get to do anything with today. They still have the physical need to tell you that they are a salvage company in space, which survives within the corporate environment, basically because no one can tell if the salvage was already salvaged by the time they got there. They're space pirates. Their leader is just really good at bureaucracy, so she can cover it all up. So it's no wonder they're the ones doing the insurance scams. Just seeing the woman alive and well is not enough for the clerk to change the policy. But seeing me pull out an intimidation check does the trick, and voila, Ellie is now eligible for a good ending in the final slideshow. After that, I genuinely meant to go ransack the minister for his chemicals, but the thing about Byzantium quests is they pretty much stop you dead in the street just to get you involved. So I simply had to take this one guy up on his offer of movie fame.
Fresh, natural talent. I know it when I see it. Listen, you got a real special quality, raw energy. I see you in pictures, kid.
Unlike the last time this happened to me, the studio is actually for real, and though I'm given no script, they let me come in and record a scene. You can squeeze in a lot of skill checks into this beat, but what makes the director happiest is just walking in and opening fire at the other actors without saying a word. And for once, I get it. When else are they going to get on camera someone glooping 4 guys at once while Ellie watches? I'm starting to think that the studio is not legit after all. There's a bit more sense in helping this other guy cowering at the entrance into the maintenance tunnels. He's one of the scientists working in the Byzantium labs, so if you help him, you can get an easy in for the chemical heist. All you have to do really is get into the maintenance tunnels where the mail gets sorted, and once all the automechanical guards are nice and electrified, gather the special white rats that the scientist has lost.
Don't worry, you can easily tell them apart from common sewer sprats. They have intelligent eyes, an agreeable yet reserved demeanor, and a fondness for hiding. Also, they're white rather than green.
He actually named all of them, but I do wonder who named the giant hostile one named Kobalas. Very beautiful. Very powerful. There's still the matter of getting a key to the minister's house, and at first I tried to get the package addressed to him as my way in. But my miserable skill set comes crashing down, and I can't convince the clerks at the post office to give it to me. Nor can I lockpick the room with it on my own. So we'll have to do a different approach. In a bar nearby, you can find a guard recently hired to guard the minister. And the only skill needed to convince him to give you the key is being able to give him a drink. If you get the man nice and tipsy, he will collapse on the bench in the back, letting you get a key off of his corpse. Does this mean I killed him with kindness and not the GLOOP Gun? I don't know. I choose to believe the bench killed him. So while I can break into the minister's mansion, everyone here quickly recognizes me as the star of the upcoming picture Scary Lady Kills a Bunch of Guys, and, understandably, they open fire. Clearing out the guards here actually is not as effortless as I'd expected, but tackling them in smaller groups really did the trick. Also, sending Ellie back to the ship helped before she ruins any more of my stuff, and somehow, in the absolute slaughter that unfolds, Minister Clark remains unharmed and available for a chat. Turns out, he's been held here hostage by Chairman Rockwell, who is the actual mastermind in charge of the colony. Which is funny because he is not the actual mastermind in charge of the colony either, but we'll meet her soon enough. The minister does indeed have no clue about any antifreeze chemicals, which lead to this delightful conversation.
What else would it be? I don't have any drugs. You should try a vending machine or a purveyor of curative goods.
The chairman's office can be accessed sneakily via the same tunnels I was looking for rats in. But the door needs to be lockpicked, and my character never operated anything fiddlier than the glooping trigger. I do, however, find a UDL disguise ID in the storage drawers. Which may be too little too late, because everyone at the Prosperity Plaza is already shooting at me for trespassing on Minister Clark's lawn. I try not to return fire in hopes that the board will change their mind eventually, but the festivities continue all the way through the first floor, until suddenly, after taking the elevator, everyone is chill with me again. Even after I blatantly walk into the chairman's office, the guards just stand there ignoring me, and only the secretary comes over to ask why I'm here, which is solved easily by blatantly lying. And they should be maybe on higher alert, because simply accessing the chairman's terminal automatically plays a poorly edited announcement of exactly what his evil plan is. Turns out, while Phineas and I have been running around trying to unfreeze the Hope ship, the board has been amping up to put as many people as they can on ice to try and weather the upcoming food shortage. The issue with the souring of the soil back from the Edgewater has actually been happening all across the Halcyon, and Earth hasn't been responding to the emails, so we're on our own. Which seems like a rather horrible situation to bring hundreds of thousands of freshly resurrected colonists into. But also, seems like the kind of situation hundreds of thousands extra guys could really figure out if they put their minds together. Actually, if Adelaide from Edgewater can figure it out on her own, surely these morons could. They just need to spend less time freezing people and more time corpse gardening. Surely I have provided enough corpses by now. So now that we know exactly in which lab they're keeping the life-giving Gatorade, and I already did the rat quest, so sneaking in shouldn't be a problem. If only I could find the guy across the building. I swear I look everywhere and he's nowhere to be seen. I hope his rats didn't eat him or something. I give up looking for the rodent enthusiast and put my disguise ID to use, since it auto-equips anyway. This may be also the first time ever when I had no problem navigating to where they're keeping the pickled scientists and a jar of vinegar. The terminal helpfully informs me that barely 20% of the good stuff can be removed from the tubes without killing the preserves. So I make sure to only drain as much, because I wouldn't want them dying from the lack of gloop and not from the overwhelming surplus of it. Somewhere around here, I also level up and get my second perk for 50% science weapon damage, as well as max out the heavy weapons stat, meaning that I pretty much run out of dump stats now. Now truly, at the height of my power, at level 16, I come to tell Phineas the news, and with the urgency of the situation, we eventually figure out the plan to, well, steal the whole ship with the colonists by warp jumping it into the system. It's only a massive space station, you think anyone will notice? I'm ready to go make the doordash of my life, but that's when someone new calls me on the Ada Skype. Adjutant Akande of the Byzantium informs me that she has been tracking my progress through the game, and though I try to be rude to her, she invites me to her place to have a chat and convince me to instead work for her. Not to jump ahead too much, but she is the true mastermind behind the scenes, leading the colony with an iron fist and some increasingly wasteful brutalities. But for now, she only wants me to do a quick favor for her and place a tracker device onto Phineas Wells' home computer, so she can steal his Discord password and maybe also send guys to arrest him. I agree, though I do feel rather conflicted about this. So I phone a friend, Phineas Wells, who tells me I should totally plant the tracker, if only so he can send a corrupted signal through it. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
Sarcasm, the last refuge of the witless.
Hey now. This way we give Akande the wrong Discord login, and she's non-divisor, even offering me a new fun quest to go back to Edgewater and low-key murder literally anyone in there. And after all the work I've put in to traumatize most everyone in that city. Since she obviously wasn't listening when I told her that I would rather kill everyone in this room than go back to that gloop hole of a city, I decided to see how far she's going to float. And turns out, not at all actually. I hate that whenever you one-shot someone, they just die on the spot. It's not as exciting. I can only assume the weight of her sins kept her grounded. Naturally, at this point, my board reputation is about as glooped as Akande's shoes, which is fine by me because my 97 DPS gun and I are just going to shotgun the remaining story missions now. Never mind that the final boss is already dead. We crammed the Unreliable into the Hope's main hangar, which the local guards don't seem to mind too much. Sure, they all open fire as soon as I come out, but you'd think my spaceship docking into the place would attract some attention. Interestingly, the initial greeting party does not lead to the whole ship alert, unless you keep running deeper into the corridors like an idiot. In fact, you can pick up the keycard from the corpse of someone in the hangar and get auto-equipped with a disguise as soon as you step further in. And after, it's just a matter of putting what's left of my dialogue skills to use whenever the shroud runs out of power. The fight did leave enough of an impression, however, so that next time I level up, I pick Tough Skin perk to take less plasma and area of effect damage. Despite my permanent concussion, I resist the urge to skip the hop into the sun and call that a valid ending, so the Space Freezer successfully arrives into orbit above Edgewater. But as it turns out, while I was driving delivery, the bot has come for Phineas and took him to the Tartarus prison, located in the uninhabitable planet within the system. I have to come investigate his lab, now taken over by corporate troopers, who are all very impressed by my portable zero-gravity thing the whole time until they die. What's interesting is that this is the first time when I realized that Phineas screaming "They're pigs, they're all corporate pigs" in his SOS message was actually meant to be a hint that the key to his terminal is hidden in the corpse of a mutant pig. Usually I just grab it because I check every corpse anyway. And of course, the only thing left to do now is to sail off to Tartarus myself to pick up my scientist grandpa. I think Ellie was supposed to try and talk me out of this or something, but I guess she was napping at the time. Poor woman probably has no idea where she is or what's going on at all, because I kept her locked up in the ship this entire time. Well, why start now? I leave my medic in her cabin and come out to have a chat with the valets. And this mission has a lot of ways to complete. You can sneak through the entire base without being spotted once. You can unlock a few shortcuts with hacking and lockpicking to help you move along. There's even 3 secret data pads with the code phrase that lets you bypass the final battle entirely. But here's the thing, I am level 19 and I got 1300 energy bullets. Sure, that is only 130 actual gloop shots, but I'm sure the corporate troopers can share. The hangar fight gets surprisingly tough, because for the first time in this playthrough, I have to put the minimum amount of thought into the combat. Tactical time dilation is basically a brain tumor in the main character that lets you slow down time every now and again and score extra critical hits onto your enemies. If you level up very specific parts of your skill tree, you can even get special moves during the time dilation that would allow you to blind or deathly wound your enemy midway through the really cool purple bullet time that you're doing. To the Fallout fans, it's kinda VATS. And as a Fallout fan, imagine that you've forgotten that VATS exist for like 20 hours straight. Yeah, that's kinda embarrassing. At least the floaty drones go down pretty easily, because even this far in, robots are crap against the platonic idea of a Pikachu. In the main pit leading down to the chairman's office, I get another surprise. Turns out my shenanigans back on Monarch have won me enough positive reputation that both MSI and Iconoclasts show up to help me against the unending prison guards. I actually didn't realize it on the first try and accidentally sent a few allies flying, but thankfully they put an end to my stupidity pretty quickly. With their help, I reach the monitor room, where Chairman Rockwell comes into contact with you before the final confrontation. Yeah, this is where you're meant to meet Chairman Rockwell. He's occupied at the moment. Usually it is Akande who talks to you here, but she's a little busy right now, you know, fertilizing and all. Well, because I got a little overeager with killing her, I don't even get an opportunity to talk down the opposition, and Chairman just sends me down into the room where the ultimate guardian of Tartarus will block my way. A felony? I've made a terrible mistake, please don't arrest me!
Is that sarcasm? Do you know what I do to people who employ the lowest, most base form of humor?
And yes, the ultimate guardian of Tartarus is another automaton! And I have a gun that shoots electricity! What a coincidence! So, what's supposed to make this fight significantly more special is that the boss robot has a riot shield and can charge attack you, exposing its weak spot if you successfully dodge out of the way. It's also accompanied by a swarm of floating drones, but you can probably guess how those do against me, as I inhale more adrenaline than I have blood in my body. Yes, I pretty much just ignore the odds and focus the boss relentlessly, which, as it turns out, can't use its shield to block attacks while mid-air, partially because it straight up goes into a T-pose for flying. What's funny is that the floating effect never really let me stun lock anyone in the game up until now. The recharge rate on it is just too short, and the characters get a little bit of immunity right after. But I swear this final encounter is when I finally was able to basically just boot loop this robot into mid-air. It ultimately only took 10 precise shots to take the Cyber Warden out of commission, and the whole time it was doing this airplane impression. Obviously, after this mess, coming in to face Rockwell is not really anything, but I'm once again sad that he has too little armor to not just disintegrate on the first shot. I was really looking forward to making him fly a little. Yes! Wonderful. I'm gonna put that into lie. And with that, Phineas is freed from his torture chair, and we're ready to go reheat all the colonists to feed them to the general populi, or whatever his plan is. I wasn't listening. I joke, but our general actions resulted in actually quite a few good ending slides, including the one for Edgewater, where we find out that 2 days after Reed Thompson exiled himself from the town, people already saw a random marauder wearing his hat. Which is bullshit, by the way! That hat is mine by right and law! I should have come back myself and killed him! So yeah, you can beat the outer world using only the GLOOP Gun. You should beat the outer world using only the GLOOP Gun. It's fun, it's electrifying, and it's never not funny. If you liked this video and you have more ideas for challenge runs like this, please let me know in the comments. I'm in love with this game and I would love to do more videos about it. In the meantime, you can support this channel by subscribing to it, and of course we now have YouTube memberships enabled, so you can click the join button down below and really help me survive until the next video. I want to start doing member exclusive bonus videos in the future, but in the meantime, I can promise you that the next video, which is going to be Stalker with grenades only, will be released for members before everybody else. Thank you once again so much for watching, I'll see you in the next one.